It's coming out this year in May for Xbox Game Pass and PC. It's going to be coming out on the PlayStation later this year when they can finish it up, aka when they want to make the big bucks, they'll stick it on PlayStation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show today. I'm your host, Andrew, or Andy B, since it's the Andy B Show, a podcast about video games for adult gamers. If that describes you, you're here with me. We're going to have a great show today. It's packed. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking a little bit about Everspace 2, all of the marathon news updates, release dates, pre-order stuff, the voice cast, Arc Raiders. There's a lot going on with Arc Raiders. Ubisoft canceled a bunch of games and closed some studios. We'll talk about it. We're definitely going to be covering what's going on at the Xbox Developer Showcase. But I might talk about Space Marine 2. They got a new Tech Marine class coming out. For all of you Space Marine freaks out there. We've got some other updates like the Ball Pit expansion that's coming out. What's hitting Game Pass this month. But look, the fact is, everybody's going to Japan. Japan's where it's at. Even if you live in England, you're going to Japan. Because that's what Microsoft wanted to talk about all this week. Because they showed off Forza Horizon 6. Forza Horizon 6, folks, is a video game. It's coming out soon. It's coming out this year in May for Xbox Game Pass and PC. It's going to be coming out on the PlayStation later this year when they can finish it up, aka when they want to make the big bucks, they'll stick it on PlayStation. My guess would be around the fall. But this is the one that's in Japan. Japan's so hot right now. We had two big, huge samurai style games released last year with Ghost of Yotei and Assassin's Creed Shadows, franchises that one of them's always been based in Japan, but the other one that's like always talking about going to Japan. Can we get to Japan? How do we get there? In the Xbox Developer Direct, Forza Horizon 6 finally making it to Japan, the place where everybody wants to be, really. The diverse biome of Japan, the city versus country, the interesting inside, outside, exterior. What's it like climbing a mountain? What's it like driving around, these fancy drifting corners that we've seen in anime and in real life? What about a bamboo forest? What about the snow? Forza Horizon, ever since the original in Colorado, has captured people's imaginations. They have this, every one of them, this will be the 6th, has had a music festival that you were a part of. You're in the music festival, you get your little wristband, and then you start racing people, because that's what happens at music festivals. It's this weird mix of, we're going to a music festival, but we're also super into car culture and races, and we also really like open world gameplay exploration. So if you're into, and they have had some amazing songs on their radio stations, to be fair. They've not messed around with that. But Forza Horizon has absolutely overtaken the interest and the push and the drive and the marketing and the dollars and really the success from the Forza game. Originally, Forza was the big game. It was the Gran Turismo competition. And so if you were really into Gran Turismo on Sony's system, you got into Forza. But somewhere along the way, when Forza Horizon came out and it was set in Colorado and you had these beautiful vistas and you're just like, I want to go to hang out in the fall in the mountains of this fictional Colorado town. It was fictional, right? I think so. Then you really didn't want to be anywhere else. They had some amazing songs and sounds. They had great races. The racing felt great, because they've been working on it for several games in the simulation series. They made it a little more arcadey in that, you could wreck your car without wrecking your car. That was the biggest difference. You could really get out there in the hills, off roads, and do some stuff that would jack up your car pretty quickly. But it didn't. It just felt lighter and more fun. And Forza Horizon 2, I think, if memory serves, I didn't look it up before the show, took it to Italy. Forza Horizon, now I want to quiz myself. 3 and 4, 5 was in Australia, right? And 4 was somewhere else, and 3 was somewhere else. And that's kind of the point I wanted to get to with Forza Horizon 6. I watched this hour-long developer direct, so you don't have to. And it looks like Japan, just like it looks like Australia, just like it looked like Italy, just like it looked like, where was 3 and 4? Like, I'm going to have to look it up. I have to look it up. Why can't I remember? Forza Horizon series. Can't remember the locations. They do run together like a little bit in my mind, because once they've kind of locked up the gameplay, once they've really nailed it, and honestly, though the gameplay has absolutely evolved over the years, it didn't really feel like it was hugely different from 3 to 4 to 5. And just like in Horizon, and to be fair, just like in Gran Turismo, what ended up happening is they built out all the models for these cars, all the physics for these cars, the way they're supposed to sound. Playground games famously would bring in cars and bring out microphones to all the different cars and get those really good captures of them so that they look right, so that they sound right, and so that they feel right. And when you do that, you don't just throw that away. You don't just decide, oh, well, let's rebuild it again next time. It's not a great investment to dump it. And really, a lot of those once the cars are out, they don't change. So you've got, what a Ferrari, I was going to say Esperanza, but that's Arc Raiders. It sounds like a Ferrari though, doesn't it? Let's get the Ferrari Esperanza. Let me know when they release that. It's fine. You just carry it forward and put it into the next game. But when you do that, you end up with what I'm going to say is a positive and a negative of bloat. I guess there's no positive bloat, right? The negative is bloat. The positive is options, an incredible amount of options that you have. So if you're in Forza Horizon 2, which is southern France and northern parts of Italy, I looked it up. Forza Horizon 3 was Australia. 4 was the UK. And 5 was Mexico. And no matter which one of those locations you go to, you're still driving the same Ferrari. They're going to add new cars. And the new cars are going to look amazing. They always look a little bit better every time. They always sound a little bit better because they worked on the audio systems. So you're getting a little bit more out of those, original recordings and new recordings they do of new cars. And everything improves a little bit. But if you played all 5 of those games in a row, as they were released for, months on end, you had a great time. But by the 3rd or 4th or 5th one, you're kind of going, I've played with these cars. And I know what the options are in the game. I kind of know how it's going to feel. There's not really that much difference between 3 and 4 and 5, in my opinion. I mean, you're on the Andy B show. It's all my opinion. That said, I started watching the video with Forza Horizon 6 a little jaded. I was like, I've played these cars. I don't want to unlock them all again. I don't care, actually, to unlock or even play 550 cars, and I challenge you, if you're into this game, if you're excited about it, to even drive one race, one time in every car. That's 550 races. You're going to do 550 races? Or are you going to find a couple of cars that you really care about, and you're going to race those a bunch, which is what ends up happening in effect. And so because of that, it devalues having each one of these cars, 550 cars, but maybe you only spend time with 30 of them. So what's the right thing to do? Is it to go, you know what, we're going to pick 30 cars, and then over time, we're going to unlock the rest of them? That's tough. Like maybe you really liked that particular Jaguar. I don't know. They have the assets. Numbers are big. Big number, good. 550, big, good. Why wouldn't they give it to you? So if you're thinking about Forza Horizon 6 as I was, as kind of too much game that's not focused enough, that's the negative way to view it, which I think is reasonable and might turn you off from a Forza Horizon 6. The other way to think of it as an game, as an everything game that's made for everybody to enjoy all of the things. Famously in this video, and also in the Forza Horizon series, and also Xbox is really pushing this, which is accessibility. And we're going to hear about some accessibility from Nintendo in a bit too. They are putting in not just incredible colorblind modes, which sometimes aren't great, but high contrast modes. They've got not just subtitles, but 2 different types of sign language. If you want sign language, which has different emphasis, as I understand it, for people that can't hear or need assist with hearing. And if you're somebody who reads sign language, you're probably going to prefer sign language, I guess. I'm not an expert, but they've hired a lot to create accessibility. And Forza, for a long time, has had the ability for you to completely tune the difficulty from, damage on to off, all and in between, from fuel burn on and off to in between. But also, they came up with the rewind system. I think they were the first that I know of to do the rewind system. If you hit a turn wrong, you just press the Y button and the whole game goes and just reverses. And then you start over again on that same turn or however far back you want to go. So it's like, even if you mess up, it's accessible to you to fix. You can have a driving line that tells you not only the optimal way through a turn, but also when you should brake and when you should go. So every part of the game is tunable and customizable. And one way to look at that is incredibly accessible. Anybody can have the experience of seeing all these cars, driving all these cars inside and out. They get fully modeled interiors. So it won me over to go, I'm a little jaded about Forza Horizon 6 going into it because I feel like it's going to feel the same to drive. And I do think that's going to be the case. I think all the events are going to be exactly tuned as hard. They used to have drive-atars. If you remember drive-atars, that was a big deal. They're going to drive like certain personas of other people online. They don't really talk about that anymore. I don't know if they still do it or if they just model the competition and how they race differently. But drive-atars were there for a long time to really make you feel like you were racing other people. But then, you couldn't just have, somebody coming in to like blast you. You had to still want to be able to tune the difficulty. So it's like, if you're racing me, Andy B online, I'm a pretty good racer. If you subscribe to my Patreon, you might have heard how I was one of the best racers on the Sega Genesis competition back on the 1994 Blockbuster World Video Game Championships. I know how to race in video games. Strong competitor. If your drive-atar is facing me, you might be in trouble. But you can still face me as a drive-atar inserted into your game if we're friends or whatever. But you tune the difficulty. So you'll see Andy B, but it'll be not quite as difficult. So it's really about this game of accessibility. Yes, you're going to experience all the music, all the cars, all that they've built into Japan, their virtual Japan game. And you're not going to have a hard time doing it. It's going to feel good. It's going to feel fun. My worry is that it'll feel, if you have experienced the last 5 of those games, it'll feel a little empty and a little too broad, where you can just go to any car. So why would you go to any car? Why wouldn't you just go to the best car, the fastest car? Why wouldn't you just spend time with their new cover car, the GRGT, which is the worst car name in history? What? Why would you do anything? if everything is available to you. So having a racing game with a little bit of focus and a little bit of constriction and a little bit of story. They tried to introduce the story. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to have a story. You're going to go to the music festival and you're going to get a wristband, but like you're not part of the racing festival. You're just a visitor. You're just an outsider. It's like, oh yeah, and then am I going to start racing and then work up the ranks? Oh yeah? Am I? And then am I going to win the festival? Oh yeah? You know, the story in it is just there to give you something to level up. It's filling up XP bars. And that's fine. If you want to experience just the goodness that is a Forza Horizon game, I think it's going to be really good. You know what I really think? I really think that all of that game, the all and the everything that they're making into Forza Horizon 6 is wonderful, especially with the accessibility options. But what if inside of that game, there was another game? What if inside of that game, there was a roguelike mode where you start with nothing, no houses, no money, no nothing, and you go through an accelerated pace of beating very specific structured races with increasingly challenging opponents using just the car you started with that you have to upgrade and get skills and experience, things like that. And then at the end, you maybe you win, you lose, but you convert that into some XP, you fill up some other bar that you would have filled up anyway. But then you care about that car for maybe 10, 20, 30 races. Maybe you really give a rip about it. Maybe something cool happened to that car. Destiny 2 and Destiny would constantly talk about the idea that when you'd play Destiny, you would care about a weapon that you found. You know, if you found a legendary weapon, you had to do something real serious to get it. There was an effort, there was a challenge, there was something special about it. And maybe it was drop rate, you know, it's like not every weapon drops every time you beat a mission in Destiny 2. But what if there was something in there that really would use that car catalog, that 550 cars that's like no car matters because there's half a thousand of them, and give you a reason to care about it? Roguelite mode inside of Forza Horizon 6. Call me, Microsoft. I'm willing to consult. My rates are reasonable. Give me a shout. Might be a great expansion pack. I'd buy that expansion pack. I'd buy another Lego expansion pack for Forza as well, but definitely I would buy that one. Are you looking forward to Forza Horizon 6? Let me know. If you like what you're hearing from me right now, by the way, consider sharing the show with a friend, liking it, subscribing wherever you're listening to, and sharing it with a friend. We're going to keep going. We got more to talk about. The year is not 2026. It's 4026. Because the next game from the Xbox Developer Direct that's caught my interest, a little preview I kind of like, I'm interested in all of them, is Beast of Reincarnation. We talked a little bit about Beast of Reincarnation last week because I was like, what are they going to do? Like the Game Freak company, it's called Game Freak if you don't know, that makes Pokemon, is making like this post-apocalyptic, like 2,000 years into the future Japanese RPG with a modern like AAA engine. Like, what's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Are they going to be able to do it? Because all the Pokemon games, you know, they're real good at those, but it's very different to make a competitive action RPG. And I will say that just like Forza Horizon 6, the passion of these developers and the type of game they were trying to make that's fully accessible to people kind of won me over. This Beast of Reincarnation game and the developers kind of won me over. There's a theme here that I really saw, that despite it being a Microsoft Studios presentation, which is all about AI and, you know, making things efficient, you know what they did in almost every one of these games that they talked about? And there's two more after this one I'd like to talk about. They talked about the artistry and the passion and the thing inside of these game developers that they wanted to bring to the top. They're like, oh, why did you want to make Beast of Reincarnation? How did you think of that? Where did it come from? And he said, you know, what I was thinking about was loneliness and connection and rebirth and regrowth. And I wanted to make a game about that. I'm like, okay, look, I dare you to have ChatGPT come up with that. Oh, I think we should use plants for the regrowth and create some cool movement for our main character, Emma, with her vine-like hair. It's like, okay, I just have seen an incredible amount of AI slop lately on the internet. And people kind of looking back and forth going like, oh yeah, well, Hollywood's got it coming. The game industry's got it coming. It's like, I don't think they do, man. So it was very bold of Microsoft to push AI constantly onto all of their workers and then turn around and go like, you know what? We care about working with our hands and writing from the heart. And I'm going to guess that they probably use some type of AI technology to help out with the development of this game. But they didn't talk about it for an hour straight. What they talked about was what people care about and how it makes them feel and the stories they're going to tell. And I'm interested in this game at this point. It's post-apocalyptic. It is a game about you and a wolf. You're Emma. Your wolf is a wolf. I can't remember the name. Koo. 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 And kind of rebuilding Japan is happening in pockets, but there's this Beast of Reincarnation, I guess. I don't think you're the Beast. I don't know if Koo is the Beast. Someone's the Beast. But there's this big baddie that's spreading a bunch of, badness across the countryside, some type of, growth destroying, blight out there. So you're fighting these like disturbed, very natural looking creatures of the forest that have been tainted. But then you're also going to end up fighting these robots. And you want to talk about a commentary on AI. The robots you're fighting are infused with humans who decided that they'd rather live by giving their souls to technology and becoming one with the tech. And in so doing, they became corrupted and lost their soul, and what's left is the technology, and you get to slice them up. And I gotta tell you, Japanese people, man, making these anime stories. Nice little commentary on society. So this looks pretty good. I went back. I guess there was a gameplay video they released last year sometime. I took a look at it. This looks good. It looks like an action RPG. There's a lot of like fighting really, really big monsters, but also humanoid-sized monsters and robots. It looks like there's a parrying system in there. I can't get the sense that it's a Souls game. It doesn't look that difficult, but some of the size and types of the enemies that you see makes you go, well, maybe it is. But they don't talk about it that way. So it looks like it is an action RPG. There's skill sets for you and the dog, and they can play off of each other. There's build systems that you can create. Yeah, so I think it looks pretty good. I'm interested. We'll see. There's several action RPGs I have in my queue right now, so I'm not like in a rush to get this one, but it's looking pretty good. What else? There were two other games I mentioned. One was like a surprise game, which is from Double Fine, which is now a Microsoft studio. And they make quirky games. And they're making this one called Kiln, 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 which is the thing you'd put pottery into that you shape to harden it, harden the clay. And Kiln is a multiplayer game, like a 4v4, kind of like a party game, where it's two parts. It's the multiplayer party game where you fight each other, but before you do that, you go make your pottery. They simulated an entire pottery making system into the game where you design the character that you're going to bring into battle. And you can end up with cups and saucers and different types of bowls, and different types of, uh, what am I trying to say? Watering pots and cans. And a little bit like Splatoon, you're going to fill up your, I don't know if it's like, it reminded me of Splatoon, maybe just because of its cartoony nature, but you want to fill up your pottery over with water and run over to the opponent's kiln and, take out their fire. So they've got a kiln, you've got one. Who can douse the other team's fire first? But you can create all types of different shapes and sizes of this pottery. You can decorate it. I hope you could save your favorite ones. But they said, all it takes is a few seconds to kind of get used to the system. And they went on for at least 5 minutes about their pottery system in here. And it really has me kind of jazzed. And then you fight, and the pottery cracks and breaks as you go through the match. But they had to do, again, they're showing the artist, constantly talking about the artist, not generating stuff with AI. Constantly showing about the artist doing stuff by hand on their computers to generate the art, to generate the pottery system, to generate bringing the characters to life, because then they have limbs and appendages and eyes and arms and hands that they kind of put onto your pottery, and it makes it kind of come to life and look very cartoony and cute and whimsical. And who's coming up with this idea with Double Fine? So this one's coming out this year as well, midway through. Looks great. I got to tell you, 3 out of 3, I recommend watching the developer direct so far. Those 3 games, all great. The last one is the one that we expected some controversy about, which is Fable. And Fable, which is not being made by Lionhead Studios anymore. I believe that studio shuttered a while ago, but it's going to Playground Games, and they've been working on it, they said, for years. Playground Games has also been making Forza Horizon, and so those games are very different. And they made that joke in the middle of the direct. They were like, yeah, we love open world games where there's choice and excitement and fun, and we know that usually involves cars. But today, it involves you making a hero in a fantasy RPG, and how are you going to make them look, and what are the choices you're going to have? So they showed everything from the combat, which was always a big part of Fable. I played Fable and Fable 2. I don't think I ever played Fable 3. But Fable 2 had the XP balls that when you beat enemies with magic or ranged or melee equipment, you got different colored XP balls that would fly towards you, and it reminded me of Crackdown. Crackdown, that was a game. Let's climb some buildings in Crackdown. I don't know why my brain works the way it does, but yeah, Crackdown was a great game. And so was Fable 2. And maybe Fable 3. I knew some folks that really got into Fable 3, where by the end of it, you were managing an entire kingdom and doing less of the walking around and questing. And you might end up doing that in this one. They spent a lot of time talking about, yes, the combat system and how you're going to evolve your character and how you can decorate them and choose all of their physical attributes to customize them how you'd like. They probably spent about half the time talking about how you're going to do odd jobs, earn money, buy businesses, meet people. There were 1,000 NPCs in the game that all are named and voiced. I don't know if it's the same voice. Maybe that's where they're using the AI. Maybe they got the AI doing the voice generation for 1,000 NPCs. But they all have their own little schedules. They go to work, they play around, they care about certain things, and they all think about you because you're the player character. And they all have opinions on who you are and why you do what you do. And some of them will like you and some of them won't. But if you'd like, you can attempt to win them over to your side by giving them gifts or treating them poorly because maybe you're their landlord and you kick them out because they couldn't pay. Or maybe they're an employee that you hired to work the shop that you used to spend time part-time in, but now you own. And it turns out you can marry and have kids with all of them. Maybe all at once. What are we doing? So there's a lot going on in Fable. I would say that I felt, this developer direct it's interesting because it's clearly scripted by Microsoft. They're on a script. They're not just talking extemporaneously from a lightweight agenda, which is what I'm doing in this show for you. But it didn't feel forced. It felt like they really gave a rip about the world they're building, and they felt excited about it. And I think I'm interested. I think this is 4 for 4 for me with the Xbox Developer Direct. Every one of those games I saw, even if I was jaded at first, it won me over. I think there's things they can do to make it even better in Forza, like I mentioned earlier. But it's hard to deny that as a purchase for your hard-earned dollars that you trade your life energy for, you're going to get a pretty great game that people care about. Is it going to be the best game ever? I don't look. We'll have to wait for the reviews. We'll have to see. But none of them were stinkers, you know? They may not be for everybody. Beast of Reincarnation, I think, is probably the one that's the most, like you're probably going to have to be into Japanese action RPGs, right? Very specifically. And so long as you are, you're probably in great shape. So yeah, for me, that was a developer direct. I think it was well worth my hour of time spent over the course of several days, kind of, watching through it. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. Hey, look, we're going to take a break real quick, but before we do, I want you to head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/the Andy B Show. It's a place where you can connect with me. You can support the show, and you can get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. So what's new on the Patreon this week? If you were to go over there to the patreon.com/the Andy B Show, you would see the latest post as of today, as of this recording, is Let's Take Exit 8. So if you want to watch me get nervous playing Exit 8, which just dropped on PlayStation Game Catalog last week, you can do it. I recorded me kind of freaking out a little bit. The hair on my legs was like, get goosebumps. I don't even think it's supposed to be that scary of a game, but I don't do scary games well. So I decided to let my subscribers see me freak out a little bit and play that game. But if you go over there, you can subscribe for free. You'll get quips from me pretty much every day, which are a little one-off, sometimes shorts and videos and thoughts that I have. But feel free to check it out and support the show. If you're a free or paid subscriber over there, thank you. It all helps and all supports the show. Appreciate you. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about Everspace 2. And we've got a lot to talk about with Arc Raiders, Marathon, and more. See you soon. I've been playing some Everspace 2, and every time I play a little bit more, I get a little bit more excited about the rest of Everspace 2. I posted about Everspace 2 on Threads, where you could follow me if you'd like, at andrew.m.b. There's been a lot going on in the world lately, and I said, in case today makes you want to go to outer space, here's some of that. And I posted just some of my recent gameplay clips. I'm just a lowbie. I think I'm like a level 3 right now. So I'm playing small sessions. I've only been able to get in a couple of smaller gaming sessions, but the game's big and they keep adding stuff. I saw a video recently for the Armed and Dangerous update that they put out, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now, maybe 3. They added a bunch of item sets with new attributes like re-rolls. So you could try and get the same gear again, but re-roll it and get different attributes, so you can get a good build. Character perks, new like tier 4 ships, I guess they call them wings. Then if you're on PC, they've got like ultra wide support. I've been playing it on PlayStation. But there's so much in there, and they have like end game expansions. If you're into like space stuff, if you're into what Freelancer used to be, if you're into buying low and selling high in different star systems and fighting a bunch of outlaw scouts, I gotta tell you, this is a pretty good game. I like when you're traveling from one place to the other. In here, you'll be in this like you know, whatever your hyperlight drives are, you're traveling between one place and the other, and that's when they put in a lot of like the character dialogue, because maybe you have to wait 30 seconds, 40 seconds while you're going 80 light years across the galaxy. So it's very fast, but they'll put in little character moments in there because you got nothing else to do for a minute. That's when they put in the story dialogue a lot of times, or just little interstitial character dialogues. And when you're in there, you can see, like, you'll kind of look to the left or the right as you're like flying through the galaxy, and you're like, oh, undiscovered system. Let me go over there, something that's off the charts, off the radars. And you can go over there and find like a derelict ship that's been lost, and find a place to solve a couple of puzzles and find some exclusive gear. So there's just always a little something out there. I'm sure the story, is big. Somebody that responded to the thread said that they are 100 hours into the game. I'm like, 100 hours in? I said, is that with the expansions? They were like, So I'll probably keep playing that. It's been good. Every time I've done it, turned it on, I've been like, man, this game's all right. So if you're playing Everspace 2, let me know. I should stream some. I should put some out there on the YouTubes, on the internets, and stream some. I probably will. We're into the quick news section. We talked about the big news, the headlines, which is, I think, that Xbox Developer Direct. I got a bunch of small news stories. I'm just going to do quick hits, read them off. And if you're interested in them, let me know. Leave a comment. Maybe I'll dive deeper. Ubisoft has been doing a major reset. Like I mentioned, 6 games canceled, including Prince of Persia, Sands of Time remake. My old version runs just fine. 7 games were delayed. Some folks, according to like the BBC and others, think that would include the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, which was already a perfect game. Don't remake it. The Division 3 might have gotten delayed. That one might be interesting. A Splinter Cell remake, the Assassin's Creed Hex game. They closed 2 studios. More layoffs were announced, and CEO Yves Guillemot cites that persistently more selective AAA industry with rising development costs are the culprit. Yeah, making these really big games is really hard. It's really hard. And not all the bets are going to pay off. And I guess they're deciding that they're not going to do the sunk cost thing and keep doing it for some of these. So good luck to all those folks that are impacted. Give me a new Prince of Persia game. Don't remake the old. I guess remaking the old one would be fine if it was low cost. Not to me, but I mean for them to make it. But for a new generation, look. Here's the thing about being an adult gamer: when you get older, you forget that people that are younger than you haven't experienced all that stuff. And just like it is today in 2026, where there's more games to play than ever, including free-to-play games. I watched a trailer where you could play as Michael Gary Scott and Dwight Schrute in The Office. And like, that's a free game. And I could play as some of my favorite Office characters for like $10 or whatever they're going to charge you. Like, that's an game as well. And to compete with it and to try and make it work, when you're competing against free games that are the metaverse, like the bets are tough. I don't know how you make these big bets. I've said it before that the most competitive price point in games is not $8, like Peak, the climbing game from last week, or certainly not $60 or $70. It's $39.99, which is where Arc Raiders is coming out, and where Marathon is coming out, and where Carmageddon Rogue Shift is coming out in just 2 weeks. So here's a bunch of Arc Raiders stories. Arc Raiders PvE might be getting too easy for the top 1% of gamers. The developers are teasing major difficulty increases for veteran players. So some players report a hidden matchmaking system is already scaling the Arc units with faster aggression and movement and enhanced abilities. But most of what they've been talking about in an article that I saw here from gamingbible.com, the devs are teasing a major difficulty escalation. So I think that's like new arcs is the biggest thing out of it. They said, if we introduce yet another 6-legged giant spider robot, they say, okay, no big deal. I think it's looking toward where we can take those experiences in the future and seeing how we can escalate the experience. And I'm like, it's already pretty tough to me, but I'm still a newbie, you know? If they lean too much into PvE, though, they say they'll have less reason to gauge in PvP, which is fine for me. I like that the PvP's there, but mostly I want to do PvE. Marathon, though, seems like it's a little more focused on the PvP. Speaking of PvP controversy in Arc Raiders, though, they have that late spawn system. If you join a game and it's a fresh map where nobody's looted anything, you have 30 minutes on the clock. Sometimes though, you spawn late with like 20 minutes on the clock. People have had 10 minutes in the map to go gather stuff. And according to the developers, they say if you spawn late, you might be frustrated because some things will already be looted, but you will economically profit way more, they say, than if you don't spawn late. And I don't know if they mean for you to go kill the other ARC players. I don't know if they like, oh, if you go engage them in PvP, you can take the stuff at a lower time cost, you know? Like if you show up, loot them, and you only spent 20 minutes doing it versus spending the first 10 minutes gathering it. I don't know. But if you're there for questing, people are getting frustrated. They're like, well, I don't want to be there I want to go in there and do this quest. And some of those things take setup and time to get across the map. They say the session, quote, when they're fresh, eventually does get quieter. Very often, players come across the remnants of fights, or maybe can take out bigger drones or hit high-ticket areas more readily than other players. So if you take out a bunch of the cruft, a bunch of the small stuff, what might be left is just the hard things in the map. Maybe. So, you know, Arc is sitting there wrestling with this, and they don't really have a lot of time to figure it out because 6 weeks from now, Marathon comes out. It's probably going to eat up a lot of their player base, I think. We'll talk more about Marathon here in a bit. But first, Xbox Game Pass came out with their games for the month. Maybe there will be more games than what they show, but they did show it out there and said, coming soon, as they're wont to say, coming soon to Xbox Game Pass. A couple of the big ones that they have on here to both Ultimate and Premium are Death Stranding Director's Cut and Roadcraft, which, you know, I've got a popular episode out there about Roadcraft called Roadcraft, Chop Wood, Carry Water. If you want to hear me talk more about that, you can. Roadcraft's a pretty cool game, I think. They've got the Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. It's coming to Ultimate and Premium. Talos Principle 2. Space Marine 2. I think that's a big one. Coming to Ultimate and Premium. So it's kind of a big month. If you haven't played any of those games, like, that's a big month. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, teased it a little bit, that there's a whole new class coming to Space Marine 2 called the Tech Marine. So I don't know as much as I think I might like to know about the grim, dark future where there is only war. I certainly don't know as much as some of you folks out there. So when I saw Tech Marine coming as a new class, I was like, that sounds cool. But for some of you, you're like, oh, I've got years of lore to tell you about. So this is from the news.xbox.com article about it. And they said the Tech Marine update will join Tactical Assault, Sniper, Vanguard, and Bulwark and Heavy Battle Brothers as the game's 7th playable class. With its own unique brand of Xenos and Heretic purging. So, yeah, they've got a couple of teases here about how it's supposed to play. Tech Marines and Space Marine 2 are specialists in crowd control and area defense. They'll shine with their combat prowess as much as they do with the technology they bring to the fight. In melee, they'll be able to take on large groups of enemies with wide swipes of their Omniscient axe. An upcoming patch 12 weapon available to them only. While their arsenal and armor augmentations grant them solid efficiency in range combat, and especially at short and medium distances. So they've got an ult, a unique combat skill, and mechanical arms and an automatic turret bolted directly onto his power pack. It's pretty cool. Yeah. This is a game that they keep adding to, Space Marine 2. It's pretty good. It's a good one of those games. I hadn't watched all of the show that came out on Amazon called Secret Level, but I did watch a couple of episodes of it recently, and I saw the Warhammer one where they sent down 4 Space Marines down to some planet on like a suicide mission. And that show, if you haven't seen it, Secret Level, is like, it's like a nerd show. They made a bunch of like short computer graphic, generated like Pixar style, but for video games, movies about these different video games. And I didn't realize Arnold Schwarzenegger was on one of them. I was like, "Was that Arnold?" He was voiced one of the characters from the now canceled New World Eternum game. But that was pretty fun to watch. I watched that Warhammer episode. I mean, it's rough. Like, it's in for mature. Don't watch it around the kids, but it's pretty cool. One of my games of the year from last year, Ball Pit. I didn't actually write a game of the year list. I thought I would. I thought I was going to do a whole big game of the year coverage, and you know what ended up happening? Life happened. What can you say? The new Ball Pit update is out now, or no, it's coming soon. There's 3 of them coming this year. And what you need to know about them is that they are releasing all kinds of new balls and new characters, both. So yeah, 8 new balls. I forgot how awkward it is to talk about Ball Pit. The Regal update is coming out January 26th. That's when this episode comes out. This is the episode for January 26th. I'm going to go I'm going to go turn on my Nintendo Switch too as soon as this recording is live. 2 new hunters, 8 new balls. Hopefully they'll do something to improve the performance of the game a little bit. Even with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, it gets a little hitchy when things get really wild. I could go for a couple more runs down in the Ball Pit. Anyway, I think that there's 2 other expansions that are coming out for free that are, probably the same size, but they kept showing more Ball Pit and, kept teasing more Ball Pit content last year. So we'll see if there's more. What else? Unlike a game we spent a lot of time talking about earlier today, Fable, where they probably waxed poetic for 15 minutes or so about how it was made and everything you can do and how it's going to make you feel and all the details. There was one game that just had a new trailer come out with a release date. And it's called Greedfall, The Dying World. Comes out March 12th. It's a choice-driven action RPG set 3 years before the first Greedfall game, which I think is on like all the subscription services if you want to try it. Comes out, I guess it's on early access right now on PC, but it comes out to consoles March 12th. And they did I'm going to say a deep dive trailer. It's been about 3 minutes versus the just luxurious 15 or 20 that I was mentioning about Fable and how they spent it. But it kind of looks like I don't know if it's going to be a $39.99 game. It looks like they're probably going for a full price. I bet it's a $69 game. But it looks like an RPG, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3. I thought this game series was more action RPG, but as they unfold how the combat system and character system is going to work, you're going to have 8 companions. You'll have their relationships and wants and needs and everything you do to spend time with them to advance their side quests and stories. But the combat has a tactical pause. It has a system in which you will give orders to or for your other companions that are in combat with you, or you could flip the slider and just focus on yourself and let them fight automatically. So there's no indication that this is running like D&D rule sets or anything like that, but it definitely looks like a choice-driven RPG. There's dialogue and choices that you can make, and then some tactical nature to the combat. So where does this really fit between something like a Fable and something like a, Baldur's Gate 3? It sure seems like it's in between. Not a full, action RPG, maybe not a full like D&D rule set, turn-based RPG, somewhere in between. And the combat seems somewhere in between. Like this seems like a really good like B tier game is my take on it. I think the first one kind of looked that way. I downloaded it twice, never opened it. So if you're into Greedfall, you can be disappointed in me. It's okay. I take it. I can handle it. But this one does look interesting. It might make me boot up one of the first ones that's available still on these subscription services. I mentioned that Nintendo was going to be putting out some new content soon that had some accessibility benefits. So Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, along with the new content meetup in Bellabelle Park is coming out soon. You'll be able to buy it or just upgrade it if you have the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. They're adding a ton of new levels. They're adding a ton of new content. I assume they're going to make it look slightly better in some graphics somewhere. But you get a playable Rosalina. Some people are into that. I think she's new in the new Super Mario Brothers movie. I think she's going to be in there. The big thing for me is, and if you're an adult gamer that has young kids, or if you have a spouse or family member that is into video games, but they're too hard, especially Mario games, they demand a lot out of you. The original Mario demanded a lot out of you to be able to time the jumps and motion and things like that. They're adding assist mode to this, which I think is a big deal, especially if you have small kids, somebody that wants to play games, but can't keep up with all the difficulties. And the assist mode is if you get hit by an enemy, it doesn't hurt you. If you fall down a pit, that's the big one. You just pop back up on a little wildflower and you don't lose a life. And so now you get to go experience the entirety of the game. You can't die, you can't get hit, and you can just go enjoy the art and the fun. And for a game that's all about like family play, A, I don't know why that wasn't in there to begin with. And B, I can't tell if you have to upgrade to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition or you get assist mode for free. If they're going to paywall the assist mode preemptively, shame on you, Nintendo. But if they don't, and it's hard to say, it's not clear to me in this trailer, which is like a 5-minute long trailer that they made about all the new stuff that's coming out in the game. They didn't really say. So let's find out. I'm going to, when the update hits, I'll see if assist mode comes out for free. I'll try and remember. Keep me honest. Remind me to check for it. But there's a lot of new stuff there. We haven't beaten all of Super Mario Brothers Wonder, but we've played a lot of it, and it looks good. It looks good. It feels good. It's a great Mario game. I'm glad they're adding assist mode. They're also adding like a new mode, and I don't know if it plays through the whole game or just in the new content with Rosalina. You can have one of the characters be one of those little Lunas that flies around and does things. They don't have to be like a jumping Yoshi, Princess Peach, Mario character. They can just be a flying Luna. So I think that'd be neat. Hopefully that's through the whole game, but I don't know. When this podcast goes live, unless you're listening to it on early access on the patreon.com/theandybshow, you will be able to know the future that I don't know now as I record this, which is the HighGuard launch trailer and launch event, the free-to-play PvP raid shooter from some of the folks that made Titanfall and Apex Legends. It's supposed to launch. Like by the time you hear this on release, it's supposed to launch, and it's free to play. It should be out. It looked to me like, some of the critique that it got was it was not a good closer for the Game Awards. Usually have a bigger or more anticipated game that closes out the Game Awards. And this one wasn't that big and maybe wasn't that anticipated. And so some folks are like, is it really worth the closeout, slot that it got? But it does look good, I think. And for free, I'm going to try it. And if Jeff Keighley puts it at the end of his show, it's probably worth giving it a shot if it doesn't cost you anything but a download. I don't know how many people are on internet that make sure they can't download stuff anymore. They charge you once you hit a certain amount of gigabytes or something. terabytes, whatever. Looks okay. The launch trailer is tomorrow morning, or as you listen to this, already happened. So are you playing HighGuard? Let me know. Something else cool that I thought was going on was the 2026 Game of the Year predictions. Yep, you heard that right. 2026 Game of the Year predictions from our friend of the show, Weston over there at Big Nerd Gaming. He writes articles about video games, and a lot of them. I guess he's got a podcast too. I haven't listened to the podcast. I added it to my queue, but one of these days. A lot of podcasts out there, like this one. Thanks for listening. He wrote my way too early 2026 Game Awards nominee predictions. And I asked, because I wanted to wait until I saw this, I was going to read some of this live on the show and get my real reaction. I said, did you leave slots in there for unknowns? Like maybe unknown AAA, unknown indie, did you leave some wiggle room? And he was like, no, I left myself no wiggle room. I said, these are the games based on what I know. That's going to be the Game Awards nominees, and I don't care. But he did say nominee, which is a little bit different than winner. Maybe that's the wiggle room. Because if there's great games or games that you perceive to be great available now or already announced that are highly likely to actually release, maybe that's the wiggle room. Anyway, let's take a look at a couple of these. I'm not going to read the whole article. You can go out there to bignerdgaming.com yourself. But let's just scoot down. All right, he's got Game of the Year. This implied, the way he's got this written, he would say he's got a hero image here for Game of the Year, and it's Grand Theft Auto 6. And then he's got a bunch of runners up. So I would say the way I read this, and I'll try to be fair to him, is that he's predicted that GTA 6 will win Game of the Year. Let's do a couple more categories. Best game direction he's giving to Wolverine. Of the options he has here, 007 First Light, Control, Resonant, GTA 6, Wolverine, and Saros, I'm going to say Control, Resonant out of that group would probably win. Best narrative he did give to Control, Resonant. This is bold. People are mad at me because I think the Steam machine is going to cost $1,000, and that's just based on like hardware prices, vibes, my long history of thinking about price points for consoles and things like that. And I could be totally wrong, but he's out on a limb for like all these different categories. It's brutal. I don't know how he says best art direction is going to go to Orbitals. Orbitals does look cool. We covered Orbitals in a few episodes ago. I'm almost halfway down. Best score in music he's going to give to something called Mixtape. I don't even know what that is. And best audio design, he thinks will go to Forza Horizon 6. All right, I'm going to stop reading it live on the show. If you want the rest, go out there and search for it from bignerdgaming.com. I think that's pretty cool. Last thing we need to talk about this week. This is the last thing because this show is running long. It's about Marathon. We've got to do just a little bit of Marathon talk. It's not far off. For anybody. March 5th, 2026 was the leaked release date, and it's now the real release date. They have come around and allowed you to do pre-orders now. It's up. You're welcome to spend your money in advance if you'd like to get a hold of Marathon. Marathon is officially confirmed after an accidental Xbox store listing forced Bungie's hand, and as expected, $39.99, the most competitive price point in video games, where all the big players are duking it out, including Bungie. You can get a deluxe option for 20 more. I thought 10 more would have been better, but it's in line. For 20 more, you can get up to 60, and you'll get some extra stuff. You'll get a bunch of extra cosmetics, and I think they have a battle pass, which I learned about this. I learned about the game. They said that not only is there, I guess there's a battle pass. That's a guess. But what I did learn is that they're, unlike Arc Raiders, where you can choose to have your character that you level up over the course of gameplay go on an expedition, where you basically send them out to pasture. They leave Speranza, the Ferrari Speranza, and they go out there and you just get some perks and bonuses until the next expedition, but you have to start at 0 with a new character. I think you keep some things, but maybe not everything. I haven't done it. I'm not high enough level to even start embarking on an expedition. But what I heard about Marathon is they're going to do a forced wipe at the end of every season. So it'd be like forcing your character into an expedition is effectively what it would be. I do not like the sound of that. So we'll see how it actually goes. But don't love that. Not excited about that. It's the first thing I've heard of in a while that makes me go, Marathon, forced wiping. Also, forced wiping is like a really weird, I don't want to say those words anymore. The other thing that was very interesting about it is that they have like this stacked voice cast. 33 voice actors, including Baldur's Gate 3 stars Jennifer English, Neil Newbon, Roger Clark, who was Red Dead 2's Arthur Morgan. Ben Starr is in there. There's a story in Marathon? Like a voiced story? Are we going to be listening to audio tapes? Do we get cutscenes? I kind of want to know. Like, I want to know how the story's coming out. And Bungie's pretty confident. They've got a confidence play coming. They are planning to do a free test weekend before the March 5th launch. I think that's smart. Shows the confidence. They let people do those beta weekends and stress tests, months and months ago before the delay, which caused them to do the delay. And they're going to let players try before they buy. So look out for that. I will absolutely be playing a free test weekend. You betcha. That's the show, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Share the show with somebody you like. Go on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/The Andy B Show. Thank you for listening. I can't wait to see you next week. Bye-bye.